In the 99 heavens of the heaven realm, Yi Futian's small world was also getting busy as the cultivators of the human realm were mobilizing across various continents. In the 99 heavens of the heaven realm, Yi Futian's small world was also getting busy as the cultivators of the human realm were mobilizing across various continents. The human ancestor was adamant about initiating the War of the Seven Realms. He also wanted to involve cultivators from all levels. No one could keep out of this war. Even though Yi Futian wanted to avoid the war, he couldn't do so. Now, he could only prepare for war. As soon as he could, Yi Futian rallied the forces of the heaven realm. Donghuang the Great did the same in the divine prefecture. They wanted to gather the Renhuang Plain cultivators to join the war. Last time, they wanted to avoid dragging others into the war. However, it was unavoidable for others to stay out of the war this time. They could only face the battle head-on. To do so, they had to first build up their strength. Renhuang Plain cultivators would be critical to this war. Yi Futian and Donghuang the Great gathered these cultivators in the 99 heavens to train them rapidly. With the time difference, the cultivators could be trained to become top-level Renhuangs and even near deities. That way, these cultivators could serve their most crucial function in the upcoming war. After the summon had been sent out, Wutian Buddha Lord, Tianyin Buddha Lord, their disciples, and Qin Yi and the others were in charge of receiving those who answered the call. They would bring these people into the 99 heavens and train them in cultivation. The heaven realm, the divine prefecture, and the Buddhist sects were all busy. Similar to the cultivators of the human realm being admitted to the human divine palace, the heaven realm and the divine prefecture cultivators also rushed to the heavenly imperial city and were allowed to enter the 99 heavens. When they came to the 99 heavens, they discovered that the place was like a completely new world that had been remade. It was actually a universe on its own. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. One of the planets in this universe was like a solar furnace. It was filled with scorching currents of heat. Many great emperors and cultivators were on the planet. Their leader was the alchemy great emperor, Taoist monk Mu. This planet was an alchemy planet. It was filled with the aura of elixirs. Taoist monk Mu led the cultivators of the alchemy palace and concocted elixirs here. In another similar continent, Blind Tai was in charge of leading the members of the armoring palace in forging weapons. They manufactured large quantities of divine arms for the troops below the imperial realm. Aside from that, Blind Tai would personally forge divine arms for a group of core members. Even Yi Futian would personally forge divine arms for the top figures below the imperial realm. As for the other cultivators, they were also busy training the legions. Donghuang the Great was personally in charge of this. Each level handled things in an orderly manner, and things were not chaotic. The closer they were to the war, the less chaotic they could be. Donghuang the Great had experienced war firsthand. He grew up and rose to the throne during a war. He naturally knew what to do. Donghuang Duan, Gu Donglu, and the other commanders supported Donghuang the Great in training the legions. Every cultivator performed their duties and did what needed to be done. In this small world, massive changes were occurring every day. A day in the outside world was equivalent to 81 days here. They were all aware that they were at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers and the initiative this time. In order to stand against the human realm, they could only strengthen their core power. The 6 legions would serve as their main force, while the Renhuang Plain cultivators gathered would support them. This arrangement was their only hope of achieving victory. One of the planets was overflowing with a piercing aura. The cold gleam of weapons filled the entire planet. The aura of the great path emanating from the planet was also sharp. In front of a majestic gate, a silhouette sat cross-legged. Divine arms circled his body. Before him, a group of 1,000 cultivators was cultivating under his instruction. Powerful, sharp auras surged from their figures. Some people even seemed to transform into divine arms. To walk the path of the weapon is to be indestructible. Everything will be destroyed. Every technique will be negated, said Wang Yanbing. His gaze was as piercing as divine arms. He looked at the cultivators before him and roared, "To walk the path of the weapon is to not have a body of flesh. There is only the weapon. Our bodies are our divine arms. After Wang Yanbing lost to Gu Donglu in the lower worlds, he worked even harder in his cultivation. He had cultivated the path of the weapon in the celestial gate of vast heaven and had been improving at a rapid pace. Although he wasn't as powerful as Gu Donglu, he still clearly knew what he wanted and ceaselessly pursued after his own path. Now, he was teaching the other cultivators how to cultivate like a grandmaster. There was a continent of monstrous beasts nearby. This continent was full of monstrous auras. Although various monsters were cultivating, it was very organized. All the monstrous beasts were working hard to improve themselves. There were many powerful divine beast bloodlines such as the Dragon Clan, the Divine Elephants, and the Pungbird Clan. The elders of the Dragon Clan, the Sky Demon Court, and the Divine Elephants were in charge of training the troops of the monstrous beasts. There were a few super powerful monsters on the Demon God Mountain of this continent. Their leader was actually Little Condor. His gaze was sharp as he glanced in all directions. Beside him was a phoenix. They were in charge of the troops of the Demon Clan. Aside from these two continents, there was another planet in their vicinity. They were all under the Heavenly Mandate Legion, one of the 6 legions under the command of Gu Donglu. Be it Wang Yanbing or Little Condor, they were all part of this legion. This segmentum was called the Heavenly Mandate Segmentum. On the main planet of the Heavenly Mandate Segmentum, Gu Donglu was in the current Heavenly Mandate Academy. Right now, many people were with him. Dou Zhao, Xiao Muyu, Long Qin Jun, and the others were all here. They now served as Gu Donglio's aides, supporting him in managing the Heavenly Mandate Legion. "How are the troops?" asked Gu Donglu as he glanced at the others present. He was now a super cultivator. He should not need to inquire on the cultivation of those under him. However, these were desperate times. They needed to amass an army for war. Even great emperors took part in the training of the legions. Xiao Muyu reported, "These past few days have been extremely hectic. However, we have now established an order. Everything is beginning to fall into place and can run on its own. That way, even if more and more people come from the outside world, we can still rapidly absorb them into the training regime and make them part of our combat power." "I am looking forward to the start of the battle," said Dou Zhao somewhat excitedly. The Dou tribe had always enjoyed battles. This was in their blood. "Demon God Planet is on track too," added Long Qin. Responded Gu Donglu as he nodded his head. "Do not get careless. This time, the enemies we are facing are like none the Heavenly Mandate realm have encountered before. They are all of the top forces of the human realm, the empty divine realm, and the other realms. Any one of these forces could have easily crushed all the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate realm in the past. We are not what we once were. How can you compare us to our past selves now?" said Dou Zhao confidently. He was also one of the core members and had always received the best cultivation resources. His abilities were very powerful now. "In terms of numbers, we are at an absolute disadvantage. The legions we are training need to be able to overwhelm the opponent and strike fear in their hearts," replied Gu Donglu. "Fear not, we will certainly make it happen," answered Dou Zhao confidently. Time trickled past. The cultivators who were training in Yi Futian's micro-world utilized every second to improve their cultivation and to break through to the next plane. However, some of them chose not to break through to the Imperial Realm even though they were qualified to do so. It was because they wished to contribute to the battlefield as those under the Imperial Realm. Time trickled past. The cultivators who were training in Yi Futian's micro-world utilized every second to improve their cultivation and to break through to the next plane. However, some of them chose not to break through to the Imperial Realm even though they were qualified to do so. It was because they wished to contribute to the battlefield as those under the Imperial Realm. By the time the forces of the human realm and their allies had completed their preparations for war in the outside world, a few decades had passed. On this day, Yi Futian and a few cultivators gathered at the Heavenly Palace. Wutian Buddha Lord said to Yi Futian, "The Western Heaven has been invaded by the armies of the Dark World and the empty Divine Realm. I need to rush back there with my troops." The Buddhist sects had been able to seize more time for cultivation in the micro-world. As a result, the Arhat Legion had grown stronger. It was time for them to return and join the war now. Buddha Lord, please lead the Arhat Legion to join the war in the Western Heaven. On top of that, I will assign the Four Corners Legion to go with you. You may order them as you see fit, Yi Futian replied. It was still rather challenging for the members of the Western Heaven to fight against the invasion of two major worlds, the Dark World and the Empty Divine Realm, alone. The commanders of the Four Corners Legion were the four disciples of Yi Futian. Among them were Fang Xiuan and Tai Tu. Fang Xiun, Yi Futian called. Yes, master. Fang Xiun appeared even more charming now with his long hair. Nevertheless, his temperament was calm. He was no longer the inexperienced lad like he used to be. Even though not much time had passed in the outside world, he and his friends had been cultivating for more than 100 years in the micro-world. Therefore, he had had 100 years of training to hone himself. Yi Futian ordered, "The four of you lead the Four Corners Legion and the troops under your command to aid the Buddhist sects in war. Obey the commands of the Buddhist sections." "Yes, master," Fang Xiun replied while nodding. Then he bowed towards Wutian Buddha Lord and said, "I will surely obey the commands of Buddha Lord. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. You, Amitba." Wutian Buddha Lord put his palms together as a gesture of gratitude. "The four of you, leave with Buddha Lord," Yi Futian commanded. Immediately, the four of them went to summon their troops for departure. The cultivators from the world of Buddhism also left the micro-world one by one. 2 legions had been sent off to assist the Western Heaven in war. "Father, let the Revelation Legion led by Diyuan and the Ziwei Legion led by Emperor Chen aid the members of the Divine Prefecture in war," Yi Futian said while looking at Donghuang the Great. Not long ago, the troops of the Devil World had entered into the space passage that connected their world and the Divine Prefecture. They were now stationed at the North Cliff region. The Devil World and the Divine Prefecture were next to each other. Hence, the troops of the Devil World were in charge of occupying the Divine Prefecture. Yi Futian did not wish to fight against the troops of the Devil World. However, things had not gone as he wanted. The troops of the Devil World chose to participate in the War of the Seven Realms and were about to attack the Divine Prefecture. Donghuang the Great nodded in agreement as he said, "The troops of the Devil World are powerful. It will be a brutal fight. From the looks of it, our fight with them is inevitable." Donghuang the Great did not wish to engage in war with the Devil World either. He had a lot of respect for the Devil Emperor, and the two of them admired each other. Nevertheless, they were destined to be enemies due to their different stances. If Donghuang the Great had a choice, he would choose to be friends with the Devil Emperor. How he wished the two of them could chit-chat and play Weiqi together peacefully, just like what they did last time when the Devil Emperor visited Donghuang Imperial Palace. The Devil Emperor was the overlord who withstood the tribulations of the Devil Abyss on his own. The entire Devil World rested on his shoulders. This time, the human ancestor used the welfare of the members of the Devil World to threaten the Devil Emperor. The latter was forced to declare war on the Divine Prefecture to preserve his people's lives. Yi Futian could still strive to get the Devil World to side with him if the human ancestor had not done so. The situation might have been different if they could postpone the war until Yu Xing had seized control of the Devil World. This was also Yu Tu's intention. He had set up things so that one day, the forces of the Devil World and the Divine Prefecture could both be utilized by Yi Futian. "Diyuan," Donghuang the Great called. "Lead the Revelation Legion and head back to the Divine Prefecture." "Yes, Father," Donghuang Diyuan responded while nodding. Even though she was the descendant of Emperor Yi Qin, she had been raised by Donghuang the Great since birth. The latter had treated her like his own child. Even up until now, her surname was still Donghuang. Hence, she still called Donghuang the Great her father. In her eyes, both Donghuang the Great and Emperor Yi Qin were her fathers, with the former being her foster father while the latter being her biological father. Donghuang Diyuan left the palace. Their numbers were still too few. 100,000 cultivators were too pitiful to guard a world. For the heavenly imperial city alone, such a number was insignificant. In the world today, some larger forces already had such numbers. Even so, they had no choice but to fight. Beneath the space passage, the troops were in formation. Each troop was separated. Right now, among the crowd, an intense piercing aura emanated from a troop. They were actually carrying bows and arrows. The leader was imposing and handsome. On his back was a divine bow that Yi Futian had personally forged for him. Before they could even react, countless cultivators perished before the divine arrows of the sun and were instantly turned to ashes. A sharp aura similarly erupted in the phalanx where Wang Yanbing was. The various cultivators that he led transformed into tens of thousands of divine arms and took to the skies simultaneously. There was nothing they could not destroy nor negate. They charged into the sky and also slaughtered many cultivators. The other cultivators also unleashed wave after wave of long-ranged attacks in tandem, killing many enemy forces. They caused the formation of the cultivators who had just arrived to fall into disarray. This caused the mighty army to fall into chaos. Huang Jioga kept launching volleys of arrows. The divine arrows of the sun shot out again and again, killing tens of thousands of cultivators. However, the enemy forces seemed endless as they swarmed out of the door of space. As more and more of them poured out, cultivators covered the skies above the heavenly imperial city. Rumble. With a loud rumble, the divine arrows of the sun encountered a considerable resistance. Then, a shower of meteor swords rained down, along with a menacing meteorite shower as well as bolts of destructive thunder and lightning. The top figures who were swarming out were beginning their counterattack. The cultivators in the sky above came charging down, suppressing them. They were all wearing green robes and unleashed the first wave of destructive attacks. In the sky above the heavenly imperial city, terrifying destructive power clashed. It was like the actual scene of the end of the world where the heavens and earth were collapsing. Attack! One side cried out. Attack! The other side responded. The sounds of slaughter reverberated throughout the space. This war was a war to end all wars. The last war paled in comparison, be it in terms of scale or cruelty. Outside the micro-world, Yi Futian stood there looking towards the battlefield. Beside him were the various emperors. All of them did not participate in the battle. The great emperors of the human realm had not arrived yet. The cultivators below the imperial realm started the fighting first. I wonder how many people will survive this war, said Zhuge Mingyue in a low voice next to Yi Futian. Her voice contained a melancholic tone. She had always been an optimistic person. However, this time she still felt pessimistic. This was a war that would destroy the world. An army of more than 1 million troops descended upon the heavenly imperial city and charged towards them. This would be the greatest calamity in the history of the 7 realms up to date. Countless cultivators would become martyrs for the heaven realm. Those who made it out alive would be very lucky. Yi Futian had a heavy heart as he looked over the battlefield. The army of the human realm was already clashing with the legions of the heaven realm. Inside the destructive storm, many people were killed every second. The army of the devil world began invading the divine prefecture from the North Cliff region. The army of the devil world began invading the divine prefecture from the North Cliff region. On the continent, black clouds covered the sky above a city. The members of the devil world filled the skies. Tens of millions of troops of the devil world began their invasion of the divine prefecture. In an extremely short amount of time, the fires of war set the vast continent ablaze. Due to the entire army of the devil world beginning their invasion from the North Cliff region, the divine prefecture utilized guerrilla tactics and did not face them head-on to block them off. The army of the devil world had powerful explosive force. If the members of the divine prefecture were to take them head-on, the outcome would be tragic. Hence, the cultivators of the divine prefecture kept sending cultivators with powerful cultivation and those proficient in the power of space or speed to harass the enemy's operations. However, in the face of absolute power, all this was futile. Of course, even with millions of troops, the devil world still had to disperse its forces. The cultivators of the divine prefecture watched how their opponents prepared to move and then decided on how to counter them. At the same time, the Western heaven world of Buddhism had a different approach. After the Buddhist sects knew that the forces of the dark world and the empty divine realm were invading, they immediately gathered up their forces, including the Arhat Legion and the Four Corners Legion, and joined the battlefield. In the lands where the two major worlds invaded, the most devastating clash erupted. The Buddhist sects had many members. They were devoted to their faith. They would not allow the cultivators of the dark world to desecrate the world of Buddhism. They had paid a terrible price the last time the Dark Army invaded. This time, a resistance of a much larger scale erupted. The clashes were even fiercer. The world of Buddhism was ablaze with the fires of war. In the sky above the battlefield, there were the Buddha lords. They had their palms together as they recited Buddhist scripture. They were releasing the souls of the fallen from suffering, allowing them to be reincarnated. This time, the 7 realms were all dragged into this war. No one could stay out of it. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. On the battlefield in the Heaven Realm, Nanluotian was fighting against a disciple of the human ancestor. Her divine sword of annihilation was suppressed by the other party. Even though this disciple of the human ancestor was not as powerful as Di Hao, he was a top figure. Nanluotian received personal guidance from Yi Futian, and she merged his divine power of the law into her techniques to attain her current combat ability. However, she still felt great pressure when facing such a strong opponent. An empty space surrounded the two of them. The others stayed away from them for fear of being affected by the aftershock of their attacks. Right now, a menacing and gigantic sword descended from the sky. It contained the power of the human realm. Dazzling green divine halos burst forth from the sword of Nanluotian as it collided head-on with the falling sword. A destructive storm swept out and covered the heavens and the earth. She was forced to take a step back. A beam of lightning charged towards the disciple of the human ancestor. Emperor Nan, father of Nanluotian, had joined the fight. His swordsmanship had further transformed, and it was purer now. His sword charged forward boldly as though it was the first sword created since mankind existed. A loud sound could be heard. A massive divine seal blocked the path of the sword. The divine seal covered the sun and the sky as it radiated golden divine halos. It contained the divine force of space, and it attempted to shatter the sword of Emperor Nan. However, the latter dazzled with brilliant green divine halos, and the divine seal was immediately shattered. The sword continued to bulldoze its way through with great momentum. Their opponent transformed into a divine human. He was imposing and was akin to a real god. He pointed a finger forward and touched the sword of Emperor Nan. The power from his finger caused the sword to him and shake vigorously. Swoosh! A shrill sound reverberated in space as cracks propagated on the finger of the divine human. Emperor Nan's body was pushed backward too. The father and daughter duo stood side by side as they looked at the cultivator before them. "Are you all right?" Emperor Nan asked. Nanluotian nodded her head slightly. The two of them joined forces on the battlefield. In another location, Dou Zhao charged forward fearlessly and slaughtered his way into the opposing armies. Everywhere he passed, no one was spared. He swung his golden staff as he moved, and many cultivators were killed by it. Suddenly, terrifying thunder befell him. It was the chaotic divine thunder. When Dou Zhao's staff came in contact with the thunder, the former was corroded right away. The thunder was not shattered. Instead, it flowed along with the staff and entered Dou Zhao's body, causing him to go numb. Even his spiritual soul shook violently due to the shock. Dou Zhao stopped advancing. He raised his head to look at the figure pouncing towards him. The incoming opponent was a middle-aged man. His pupils were purple, and they glistened with the divine power of thunder. His eyes could directly affect the will of others. Swoosh! An ear-piercing sound rang. A thunder invaded the eyes of Dou Zhao. The middle-aged man could affect the minds of others since his power of thunder could target spiritual souls. His mental attack was perfect to counter Dou Zhao's domineering physical attack. The middle-aged man extended his arms, and streaks of lightning descended from the sky. Yi Futian represented the heavenly path of the small world, and they were its direct descendants. Therefore, the combat power of this group of people was awesome, and this was their only advantage. The direct baptism of the divine power of law endowed these top cultivators with massive combat effectiveness. To a certain extent, Although the number of the army from the Heaven Realm was far less than their opponent, this batch of top figures was not any less excellent compared to the other side. On this battlefield, they quickly gained the upper hand, suppressing their opponents. Even though some more cultivators from the other side came as reinforcement, June and the others worked in tandem and soon immolated all the cultivators here. But even so, looking at the entire battlefield at a glance, they were still being outnumbered by the invading army of the human realm. There were simply too many people, and there was a huge gap between the numbers of cultivators involved. The human ancestor launched the power of the human realm to invade, and cultivators continued to emerge wave after wave. Then they pressed onward to Heavenly Imperial City, attacking different locations inside the city. Blood spilled wherever they passed and slaughtered. The sight was extremely horrific to behold. There was a sacred figure clad in a white dress on the battlefield. She was like a tree of life as countless branches and leaves spread out from her body. She possessed an extremely powerful life force. Whenever someone was injured, the divine power of life would pour into the wounded and restore their vitality. Thus, lives were revived, and flesh grew over the bones. As long as they were not injured by the same or an even more powerful divine power, they could be rescued and restored to health if they did not die. This was the magnificence of the divine power of life. This woman in white was Xia Qingyuan. She moved through the battlefield, constantly saving and resuscitating injured cultivators, but it was useless. With just her alone, it seemed that whatever she was doing was only a drop in the bucket. Moreover, in most cases, those cultivators were being killed outright, so there was no chance of rescuing them. Blood gradually stained her clothes. Xia Qingyuan, who was traveling through the battlefield, felt the fragility of life, and there was a deep sadness in her heart. She was also the princess of Emperor Xia's realm, and she had experienced her share of battles. However, this was the first time she experienced a war of such brutality. It was a battle between millions of cultivators who slaughtered one another in frenzied fights. The scene was simply too terrifying. Buzz. The golden spear pierced through the void and attacked Xia Qingyuan. Someone noticed Xia Qingyuan, who kept resuscitating the injured and restoring their combat effectiveness instantly. Of course, such a person must be killed. Bang! The golden spear came crashing down. But before it hit Xia Qingyuan, it shattered and pulverized. It was smashed by a long rod surrounded by divine flames. Bang! The golden spear came crashing down. But before it hit Xia Qingyuan, it shattered and pulverized. It was smashed by a long rod surrounded by divine flames. Not far above Xia Qingyuan, a ferocious and domineering demon was standing there. It was Zhu Yan the Beast, who had once fought against Yi Futian. Behind him stood the principality of the demon ape clan from the heavenly mandate realm. They spread out and formed a line of defense as a ferocious aura erupted from them. They held long rods in their hands. They were standing in battle formation as if they were guarding and ensuring Xia Qingyuan's safety. Above the firmament, a group of cultivators dressed in blue was surrounded by golden radiance as they descended from the sky, looking extremely keen. These were the cultivators from the human divine palace. Like golden gods of war, they carried absolute dominance. The golden rays of light sprinkled down as those sharp divine arms came down for the kill, cutting through the void. Zhu Yan the Beast and other demonic cultivators resonated with the energy. He held the long rod and launched it high into the sky, which contained a supreme power. It shattered the void and blocked that group of incoming cultivators. Xia Qingyuan glanced at the battlefield, her robe fluttered. She continued with her task, rushing in another direction as the divine power of life enveloped the boundless space, continuing to heal the wounded. Buzz. Another spatial divine light pierced through the void. It was aimed at Xia Qingyuan. Although Zhu Yan and other great demons had blocked one group of attackers, many had taken notice of Xia Qingyuan by now and wanted to kill her. Quite a few top figures were trying to get to her themselves. The spatial divine light directly penetrated the void and pierced through the bodies of several cultivators. However, it continued moving forward, and its aim never veered from Xia Qingyuan. However, almost at the same moment, a terrifying gigantic palm print blasted down and collided with the divine light in the void. Suddenly, a violent sound came from the space, which could be heard clearly in the surrounding areas. An extremely tyrannical aura permeated, and another group of cultivators appeared behind Xia Qingyuan. These cultivators turned into a battle matrix and moved forward. Until now, they had not made a move. It seemed that their job was to solely protect Xia Qingyuan. Xia Qingyuan was a little surprised by this as well. She turned around to look and recognized the people protecting her from behind. They were the cultivators from the Lost Clan. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. The cultivators of the Lost Clan had been included in the Great Army of Heavenly Mandate. This force was capable of competing with the forces from all sides in the past, and after Yi Futian's training, their strength had been further improved. Furthermore, they had gone through the test of battles and had been on the edge of death many times over before they were able to return to the land of the original realm. Their resilience was tried and true, and such a force was protecting her. Xia Qingyuan suddenly found that a complex emotion filled her heart. Of course, she knew who had arranged all this. Who else could have commanded such a mighty force? In a major battle like this, everyone was standing in the middle of life and death, and no one had absolute certainty of their survival. On the raging battlefield, there was such a powerful force like this protecting her. Could this be a way of gauging her importance in his heart? Or maybe because he felt that he owed her? Everyone, don't worry about me, this is a waste of your combat power. Xia Qingyuan turned around and said to the cultivators of the Lost Clan. Being a top cultivator herself with strong combat effectiveness, a mighty team such as the Lost Clan should not be wasted guarding her. Princess Xia has powerful healing ability and plays a great role on the battlefield. Of course, we must ensure the princess' safety, an elder from the Lost Clan replied. Princess, just focus on doing what you do best, don't pay any attention to us. This kind of explanation somehow seemed to make sense. However, the situation on Xia Qingyuan's side seemed to have attracted the attention of many people. In the sky above the battlefield, a group of cultivators from the Divine Palace were watching Xia Qingyuan closely. They realized that Xia Qingyuan seemed to be the only one on the battlefield who enjoyed some security while no one else enjoyed the same kind of privilege. More importantly, she was an expert at the divine power of life and possessed a very powerful ability to heal. Kill her! Above the firmament, a dull sound rang out, resounding throughout the battlefield. Suddenly many cultivators looked in Xia Qingyuan's direction. For a time, mighty cultivators swarmed in Xia Qingyuan's direction, turning into a fearsome army. The Great Army of Heaven Court and the Great Army of Heavenly Mandate also noticed this movement, as they focused their attention on Xia Qingyuan's direction as well. Many cultivators were turning to Xia Qingyuan as the new target, especially those cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate Army. They all knew that Yi Futian had a special relationship with Xia Qingyuan. Once upon a time, Yi Futian had first emerged out of Emperor Xia's realm and was cared for by Emperor Xia and Xia Qingyuan. The two of them spent a lot of time together, and many people thought they were a couple. Blinding and dazzling divine lights pierced through the battlefield, and they turned out to be a series of arrows. Huang Jioga had led a group of cultivators to cover the sky with arrows. These divine arrows traversed heaven and earth continuously and took out many cultivators instantaneously. Those cultivators above the firmament turned into balls of fire and fell from the sky. The sight was astoundingly tragic. However, this turn of events further accentuated the importance of Xia Qingyuan. Cultivators from the human divine palace converged in this direction. They were all determined to take Xia Qingyuan down and kill her. In a moment, a vast battlefield quickly formed around Xia Qingyuan, and this battlefield was full of destructive storms. Above the sky, some divine swords penetrated heaven and earth, turning into a beam of infinite proportion, piercing the sky from top to bottom. The sound of destruction was heard without ceasing, and the cultivators from the heaven realm were directly penetrated by the swords and died instantly. These terrifying divine swords dominated the fate of all beings in this world, passing through many obstacles and aiming directly at Xia Qingyuan. At this time, a full moon appeared, and the moonlight sprinkled down on those divine swords. These divine swords seemed to be sealed in ice as their speed suddenly slowed down. But more than that, many cultivators above the firmament felt an extreme chill. It was the divine power of Een that had frozen the world. Time and space seemed to stand still under the power of Een, and those who did not comprehend this divine power were trapped in its power. Buzz. The divine arrows bloomed in the sky, piercing the void. Incomparably radiant divine flames bloomed above the void. The radiant arrows shot by Huang Jioga directly pierced through many cultivators. It seemed as if they had combined the power of the solar and the Een. Although this divine power was not the divine power of solar, it was not too far behind. In a brief instant, more than 1,000 cultivators fell from the void. It was a most horrific and petrifying sight. Bang! A terrifying divine power erupted as the cultivators from the human divine palace looked down at the area below. They saw a very beautiful woman who was the embodiment of feminine beauty. Like a goddess in the darkest night, the divine power of Een bloomed from her. In an instant she had frozen the space, forcing the space to come to a standstill. This was the goddess of Yue Divine Palace from the Shadow Realm who had realized the divine power of Een with the help of Yi Futian. She now unleashed the brilliance of the moon, which transformed into the power of Een to assist the fight by freezing the space. Fierce battles broke out all around Xia Qingyuan as many top figures from the human divine palace had gone over there to attack. Even the army from the heavenly court had headed that way to render their support. Fierce battles broke out all around Xia Qingyuan as many top figures from the human divine palace had gone over there to attack. Even the army from the heavenly court had headed that way to render their support. For a time, people continued to perish in the area around Xia Qingyuan. Xia Qingyuan was in the middle of the battlefield, and many people were guarding her. Her most direct guardians were the army of the Lost Clan. They guarded the outer circle and did not allow any attackers to get close to her. However, when she saw that the people protecting her kept on dying without her even having a chance of saving them, Xia Qingyuan just felt a sense of sadness in her heart. She chose not to pursue the imperial realm because she wanted to save more people, but it did not go as she had imagined. Instead, it was because of her that more deaths had occurred. A look of sadness flashed across her eyes, and suddenly the polarities of life and death began revolving around her body, alternating with one another. An iciness now bloomed from her beautiful eyes as endless marks surged around her, all of which were the marks transformed by the power of life and death. As soon as she moved, Xia Qingyuan rushed out of the battlefield, no longer amid the crowd that was meant to protect her. She was also a top cultivator who had the opportunity to step onto the path of the great emperors. If not for this battle, she would have continued her pursuit of the imperial realm. Kill! When they saw Xia Qingyuan rush out on her own, many cultivators around came from all directions to encircle her. But they saw Xia Qingyuan merely cast a glance at the as countless lights of catastrophe seemed to erupt at the same time, turning into marks of death. Pa. Sounds of bloodshed were heard continuously. As soon as the marks of death hit their bodies, they would worm into the bodies, turning all traces of life into death in an instant. Death was all but inevitable, as it turned their bodies into pitch-black masses that fell from the sky. In a very brief moment, many cultivators fell from the sky as if the god of death had descended upon them. Those cultivators who were behind fighting forward had to stop involuntarily after witnessing the shocking sight in front of them. There was a deep fear in their eyes as they fixed their gazes on Xia Qingyuan. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. Previously, Xia Qingyuan was a savior, but now she had become a murderer with completely different prowess. But Xia Qingyuan did not care about the thoughts that ran through their little heads. Her body turned into a bolt of lightning as she smashed into the midst of the cultivators from the human realm. She was surrounded by endless lights of catastrophe, and those lights were like sword marks that carried a terrifying breath of death, which seemed to inflict immediate death as soon as they touched anyone. Watch for those marks around her, someone in the human realm cautioned the others gravely. Xia Qingyuan's marks were the marks of the god of death. Anyone unlucky enough to be touched by them would be killed right away, as their life force was being swallowed up in an instant. As soon as they were buried by that will of death, they were already dead men. Those cultivators who had not comprehended divine powers had no way of stopping it. As soon as they were touched, they would die without a doubt. In the distance, Yi Futian was calmly observing everything that happened on the battlefield. All the battles were imprinted in his mind, including the battle in which Xia Qingyuan was engaged. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. From that spatial passageway, the cultivators from the human realm poured into this world continuously and without ceasing. They were everywhere in the heavenly imperial city and carved a path all the way to the outside of the city. The cultivators from the human realm seemed to be deeply affected by the human ancestor. All of them displayed a strong murderous intent, wanting to destroy the heaven realm and unify the 9 states. Why don't you go back to cultivate? I'll keep an eye over here. A soft and gentle voice spoke up next to Yi Futian. It was Hua Jieyu, who was standing next to him. Very well. Yi Futian nodded in agreement. And with a thought, an avatar suddenly appeared. His person left and departed to the small world. This avatar of his could spy on the outside world, and if anything happened, he would know right away. The war broke out and swept through the lands of the 7 realms. Countless cultivators were sucked into this significant battle involving the 7 realms, and no one could escape. The great army of the devil world began to engage the great army of the divine prefecture in an all-out war. The dark world and the empty divine realm armies were also involved in a full-scale war with the world of Buddhism. On the mainland of the dark world, a barefoot monk was walking on the river Styx, walking forward, step by step. At the moment, this dark world seemed relatively peaceful by comparison. On the contrary, the 7 realms were now transformed into hell. This monk's appearance was dignified and solemn, incomparably sacred. The light of Buddha lingered around his body. He walked along the river Styx and, moving forward steadily, came to an island. The island was tranquil as if it was unaware of what was happening in the outside world. The monk stepped onto the island with bare feet. This was the island of light in the dark world. There was no strife and no hatred here. Yi Futian had come here once. The monk saw the virgin who resided on the island. She was teaching the children quietly as always, as if the disputes on the outside world had nothing to do with her. The children were a little curious when they saw a strange monk here and could not help but look at the monk. The monk smiled at them and watched the woman quietly. "What business does the master have here?" the woman finally asked the monk, unable to hold back any longer. "You should know me." The monk saluted, his hands clasped together. "Surely the master Jess. We have never met before. How could I know you?" The woman responded calmly. "Amitabha." The monk put his hands together and said to the woman, "You desired a pure land with absolute light, but where there are people, it is doomed to rife with disputes. Even Buddhist holy lands cannot be spared, so how can there be such a thing as an absolute pure land?" "This here is the pure land," said the woman. "No need to deceive yourself," said the monk as he waved his hands. Suddenly imageries appeared upon the lake. These imageries were of wars on the lands of the 7 realms. There was destruction everywhere, countless people perishing. "Destruction will only bring darkness, not light," the monk continued. "Is the current situation really the result that you wanted? Master has mistaken me for someone else." There was a sign of disturbance in the woman's eyes when she saw those images. "I can see your fate," the monk said suddenly. The woman was stunned by his claim. Then she looked at the monk curiously. "Tell me." "Death is salvation," the monk replied. "Salvation?" The woman looked at the monk and continued, "I don't need salvation. The master best go elsewhere." "Amitabha." The monk folded his hands together and said to the woman, "Even as the master of darkness, there is still light in your heart. There is no absolute darkness nor absolute light in this world. No matter the destructions or how it is reborn, the world is still the same, and only the law can change the world, not destruction and death." The woman's eyes sharpened as she stared at the monk and said, "Can Omniscient really see the future?" At this moment, her temperament suddenly became majestic. It contained an incomparably mighty solemnity. The monk in front of her was none other than the Buddha of destiny. "The great paths are connected, and there is not much difference as they exist in the world," said the Buddha of destiny. "If you want to find the person who led you into darkness, The answer lies in the human realm. In the dark world was a passageway that connected to the human realm. In the dark world was a passageway that connected to the human realm. The human realm was known as the most perfect realm after the collapse of the heavenly path. Under the governance of the human ancestor, the human realm had been peaceful and stable, and its cultivators, likewise, were strong in strength. But now, cultivators from the human realm had flooded into the heaven realm and launched a war of invasion. At this time, in a city in the human realm, a beautiful woman appeared. This woman was dressed in white and looked pristine from head to toe. It was the woman from the dark world. The words of the Buddha of destiny had touched upon the answer she had always wanted to know. Therefore, she came to the human realm. As soon as her thoughts moved, countless imageries from the city below came rushing into her mind. The human realm instigated the invasion of the heaven realm and ignited the fire of war in the heaven realm. However, this city inside the human realm was peaceful and quiet, forming a stark contrast with the chaos outside. Inside a particular clan, a few people were talking. A young woman asked, "Master, how is the war outside progressing? Have we taken the heaven realm and the divine prefecture?" The human ancestor led the powers of the entire human realm to launch the battle of the 7 realms. How could he fail? Victory is the only outcome for this war, her master responded with strong conviction in his voice. It sounded like whatever the human ancestor intended to do would indeed become a reality. The young woman nodded slightly, but then she seemed to have remembered something as she continued, "It's just that in this unprecedented warfare, which the human realm started, won't there be a lot of cultivators who perish because of it? And will there be a lot of innocent lives lost in the heaven realm and the divine prefecture because of it?" "Silly girl," her master laughed in a low voice. "The human ancestor fought for the justice of the world, and naturally, there will be collateral damage. As long as the heaven realm and the divine prefecture are taken, the 7 realms will be united, and the world will thrive under the established order by the human ancestor. Then they will all thank the human ancestor, who will lead the world to the glory of your. This is the great path. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. The woman nodded lightly as if she was suddenly enlightened. She said with a smile, "The human ancestor fought to save all living beings in the 7 realms. When the 7 realms are unified, everyone in the world will believe in the human ancestor. Unfortunately, my cultivation is still not advanced enough, or else I will also join the battle and go to the heaven realm to fight." Just as they were talking amongst themselves, suddenly another person appeared next to them. The two of them were startled as they fixed their attention on the woman who appeared out of nowhere. They saw the woman frown slightly, a puzzled look on her face as she focused her attention on this teacher and student duo who were talking to each other. Heaven and the divine prefecture each have its own established order already, especially the divine prefecture. Under the governance of Donghuang the Great, the divine prefecture is peaceful and prosperous, a place where many in the world had gone to seek the way and cultivate. Why do they need to be saved? The woman from the light path looked at the two. She continued, "They already have their own orders. The invasion of the human realm has devastated the lives of many. How can this constitute justice? Who are you?" The elder did not answer her question right away but stared at the woman with heightened alert as he posed the question. "Answer my question," the woman said coldly as invisible coercion enveloped the other two, making them both feel a suffocating feeling. The young woman responded, "Yi Futian of the heaven realm and Donghuang the Great of the divine prefecture were weaving a conspiracy, and it will probably put the world in jeopardy. The human ancestor took charge to deal out justice and restore the order of the world. Naturally, this is the justice of the world." When she heard this answer, the woman in white felt a little bewildered. The other was not at a tender age of ignorance, and she was no beginner in cultivation. Yet, how could she say such unreasonable things? "So the human ancestor must be in the right?" she asked. "The human ancestor is in the right," the woman responded. "Are you disrespecting the human ancestor?" The old man's eyes sharpened. Seeing the reaction of these two, the woman disappeared immediately and left as if she knew that it was useless to talk any more with them. They were deeply entrenched in their belief, and it was impossible to persuade them otherwise. Somewhere else, in a major clan in the city, many cultivators were participating in a ritual. Their clan leader had died in the battle of the Heaven Realm. The whole clan was grieving. Our clan leader answered the call of the human ancestor to fight for the order of the world, the unification of the 7 realms, and for justice. Although he is no more, his spirit will live on forever. This solemn pronouncement resounded throughout the crowd. Everyone looked on gravely and knelt to pay their final respect to the dead. They were the descendants of the ones who died in battle. But they felt honored. It was as if they were proud of those who died fighting for such causes. "I want to go to the Heaven Realm to fight in the war as well," someone said, and everyone else looked at the speaker. A man asked, "Your cultivation is not yet up to par. Don't you want to cultivate for a while longer before you go?" "I don't want to miss it, and I'm afraid such an opportunity will not be there in the future," the man replied, with a slight fanaticism in his voice. All these imageries were deeply imprinted in the woman's mind. Her divine consciousness covered the entire city, and she found that similar sights were happening everywhere. Some were even more outlandish than this. Cultivators of the human realm had this deep-rooted belief that this was a fight for the justice of the world and to restore the order of the world. The human ancestor was their absolute belief, which could not be shaken. Even if their loved ones died in the battle, their hatred was targeted squarely at the Heaven Realm, and they did not feel much sadness. The woman's face changed, and the calmness and tranquility she had moments ago were gone. At this moment, countless images appeared in her mind, and the past came alive vividly before her eyes. She remembered that in her cultivation journey, she, too, had gone astray and sunken into darkness when she was young. She had forsaken everything and was trapped in demonic barriers. In the name of cultivation, she lost her humanity. She would never forget the expressions on the faces of her parents when they perished at her hands. However, she seemed to be possessed at that time, continuing her walk deeper on the road of darkness and turning into the devil herself. She had seen all the darkness in the world and experienced hell on earth. Until one day she became the master of darkness. All those things in the human realm now had a familiar feel, but even she knew that these cultivators were not under direct control. She disappeared, and she embarked to other places in the human realm. She found that it was the same everywhere. She had even seen something more exaggerated, like those cultivators from the human realm who believed in justice. They regarded invasion and killing as the right thing to do and as their life's mission. Human ancestor. At this time, the woman stood in the void, and she could only feel a biting iciness all over her body. In those quiet eyes, there was only darkness at this moment and an extremely palpable murderous intent. She had never liked the human ancestor. She thought that the human ancestor was hypocritical and pretended to be virtuous. From the human ancestor, she could see the shadow of her own master. At this moment, she had a feeling that she might be right and that it was not the shadow of her master. It was possible that human ancestor could be her master. The cultivator who brought him into the darkness was very likely the incarnation of the human ancestor. And only the human ancestor had such abilities. With her fists clenched, a frantic will of destruction was about to burst from her, but it was suppressed by her. It was an unforgettable hatred that she was feeling right now. The human ancestor was able to influence the thoughts and emotions of all the cultivators in the entire human realm. Inside the human divine palace, there was peace at the moment. There were no conflicts or disputes. Everything appeared like a place out of this world that was exceptionally tranquility. Inside the human divine palace, there was peace at the moment. There were no conflicts or disputes. Everything appeared like a place out of this world that was exceptionally tranquility. In front of a palace, the human ancestor was chatting with a child. The scene was peaceful, in stark contrast to the war currently taking place in the 7 realms. At this time, a strong fluctuation came from the sky. The human ancestor raised his head to look up before seeing a divine light descended upon the human divine palace, and someone landed directly in front of him. Immediately, the human ancestor stepped aside and bowed in reverence. A handsome and extraordinary young man appeared where the divine light fell. His body gradually solidified, and he emerged from that elusive shadow. It seemed as if he was not made of flesh and blood at all. The child looked at the young man curiously and seemed a little puzzled by him. He looked at the human ancestor and wondered why he was so respectful to this young man. Wasn't the human ancestor the master of the human realm? Master, the human ancestor bowed and called out, behaving extremely respectfully. It appeared as if the young man was the true master behind the scenes in the human realm. Sir, who are you? The child looked at the young man and asked. The young man's body gradually materialized, and he looked at the child with a gentle smile. He said, I am the human ancestor. Human ancestor. The child looked at him, then at the other human ancestor next to him, asking doubtfully, then who is he? Please keep reading on Wuxia World. He is also the human ancestor. The young man responded. The human ancestor is not just one person, there are many human ancestors. It is because of this that we are considered the ancestors of mankind. The child scratched his head, still puzzled. He had no idea what the young man was talking about. The young man walked up to the child and rubbed his head. He stooped down and said with a smile, when I was younger, I was just like you, an ordinary person who suffered my share of bullying. That was the era when divine power ruled, when the gods controlled the order of the world. Mortals were like insects, and they could only look up to the gods. In the age of the gods held supreme power. When the gods fought, even the heavens were shattered and many died. My parents, wife, and children were among the unfortunate who died, but even as they died, they did not get so much as a look of sympathy because the gods cared not for the deaths of mortals. In front of the gods, mortals are nothing but ants on the ground. No one would apologize to ants, nor would they have to pay for what they did to the ants. But fortunately, the gods died when the apocalyptic catastrophe destroyed all the gods. It was possible even for the gods who were high above to die. It was an era full of fear and hatred. It was the worst of eras, but it was also the best. When all the gods fell, everything in the world would be remade. Without the gods, mortals become the focus of the world. The young man spoke calmly as if he was telling a story from the ancient past. Gods are nothing. They are just mortals who control powerful forces. They can die, and they have emotions just like everyone else. They think like mortals, so mortals are gods, and everyone can become a god. Will I be able to do that too? The child asked innocently, looking at the young man with some longing in his eyes. Of course, the young man nodded. God and man, the divine and the mortals are one and the same. Having said that, he stretched out his hand with a drop of water in his palm and asked, What is this? A drop of water, the child replied. The water droplet floated into the air, and in that tiny water droplet, a terrifying force was being born, and the water droplet began to spin. It then flew through the air, and a building in the distance instantly collapsed and shattered, turning into a pile of dust. Behold, even a drop of water can have incredible power, but its essence is still of water. The young man looked at the child and continued, It's the same with people. There is no essential difference between mortals and gods, as they are the same. Do you understand? The child shook his head. The young man smiled as he rubbed the child's head again. He stood up and continued, It's all right if you don't understand. Everyone in the world is stupid and ignorant because they are controlled by their emotions and desires and can never escape from their grip. This is the reason why this world needs to be remade. But how? The child asked curiously while his eyes were still fastened on the young man. His eyes were innocent. The young man looked down at him with a smile. Create a world of the gods. The world of the gods, the child murmured. What kind of a world is the world of the gods? But in the next moment he stopped thinking. The young man's body turned into an intense light and shot directly into his body. The child's eyes revealed a pained look, and his face twisted. He looked at the elusive figure in front of him and opened his mouth as if shouting something out. There was despair and fear in his eyes as tears flooded out from them. He reached out his trembling hands, trying to grab something, but ultimately, he was unable to. Soon, the divine light submerged his body, and the look in the child's eyes changed. It was freezing, with a sense of contempt that disregarded everything as if there was no emotion. Afterward, he flexed his arm a bit, looked at it, and appeared satisfied. "It's all right," he said in a low voice. "Congratulations, master," said the human ancestor next to him. "I'm the same as you," said the child. Immediately the human ancestor understood what he meant and nodded. The human divine palace was peaceful and harmonious at the moment, but the war that raged in the 7 realms was becoming more fierce. This war had swept through the 7 realms at an incredible speed. At this time, there was still a steady stream of cultivators who traveled across domains to participate in the war. In the Western world of Buddhism, the battles were incredibly fierce. The combined forces of the Dark World and the empty divine realms swept through the Buddhist world. These battles were extremely costly and stained the Buddhist Pure Land with blood. The sound of chanting Buddhist scriptures could be heard everywhere on the land as if they were trying to redeem the dead. However, just when the war had reached a crescendo, a shocking turn of events occurred. The army of the Dark World that invaded the Buddhist world suddenly stopped fighting against Buddhist cultivators. They now turned their attention to the cultivators of the empty divine realm, and the sudden slaughter caught these cultivators off guard. They had no chance to react to what was happening to them. Even the cultivators from the Buddhist world were completely stunned and did not understand what was happening. Why would the Dark World and the empty divine realm suddenly turn on one another and start infighting? The Buddhist cultivators couldn't react for a while. They were content to stand on the sidelines, letting the others fight amongst themselves. It didn't take long for the battlefield in the Western world of Buddhism to undergo earth-shattering changes. Due to the internal war between the Dark World and the empty divine realm, Buddhist cultivators began the sweep to cut down the power of these 2 worlds, so the war now turned into a chaotic 3-way battle. However, in the main battlefield of Buddhism, the Western world of Buddhism still held the absolute advantage, causing the cultivators of the other 2 worlds to suffer steady defeats and be forced into retreat. There was no doubt that if things continued this way, the Dark World and the empty divine realm would eventually be beaten off of the battlefield entirely. Because of this, the evil emperor himself went to the Dark Divine Mountain. The evil emperor came to the Dark Court to see the Dark Sovereign. The evil emperor came to the Dark Court to see the Dark Sovereign. "Why betray me?" the evil emperor asked the Dark Sovereign unceremoniously. "Evil emperor, do you know the truth about the human ancestor?" asked the Dark Sovereign. "That's not important." The evil emperor brushed the question aside nonchalantly. "No, it is essential." The Dark Sovereign looked at the evil emperor as she took off her mask, revealing an indifferent face. The evil emperor did not seem surprised, as his expression remained as it was before. "Do you know how I became the Lord of Darkness?" The Dark Sovereign looked at the evil emperor and continued, "Once, I was just like so many others, simple-minded and ordinary. Until one person appeared and everything changed. He taught me cultivation and led me on the path of darkness. He let me experience the cruelest and darkest side of this world. So step by step, I came to be the master of the Dark World today. Because of this, you think the whole world is dark and you wanted nothing but destruction," said the evil emperor. "Yes," the Dark Sovereign nodded. "In this turbid dark world, the dawn will only appear after destruction." "Understandable," the evil emperor nodded. "The dragon slayer will eventually become the evil dragon. Perhaps the teacher who taught you was the same. He has also experienced darkness, tried to change the world, and led you to darkness." "Very possibly he is the human ancestor," the Dark Sovereign said to the evil emperor. The evil emperor was silent for a moment when he heard those words but then said, "Everything in the world will eventually settle and cannot be changed. Now, he also seems to have realized your wish, which is to bring darkness to the world. Please keep reading on Wuxia World." "No, that is not what I want." "What is it that you want, then?" the evil emperor asked her. The Dark Sovereign was stunned by this question. What was it that she wanted? Before, her goal was always clear and firm: shroud the earth with darkness. But now, why was she unsure? "You want revenge?" The evil emperor looked at her. "Because you discovered the truth, the belief that you held for so long began to wobble. At this time, even you have no idea what you want to do." If you continue with your previous goal, then, in a way, you have complied with the wishes of your enemy, so you are uncertain now, you are struggling inside. The Dark Sovereign looked at the evil emperor in the eyes, and those evil eyes seemed to see through the truth. She nodded and said, yes. Indeed, she was struggling. Too late, the evil emperor looked at the Dark Sovereign and said, everything has settled, and everything in the world has been predetermined. Since it can't be changed, why not go along with it? Is this still the evil lord of the empty divine realm? The Dark Sovereign looked at the evil emperor and asked, and you? Are you still the Lord of Darkness who wants to destroy the world? The evil emperor responded. The two stared at each other as invisible coercion enveloped the world. All the cultivators of the entire Dark Court could feel that suffocating pressure. In the era when the heavenly path collapsed, the gods fell, as well as so many people in the world. Now, the era seems to be repeating itself, and no one can predict what will happen in the future. However, whether it is the cultivator of the dark world or the empty divine realm, whether it is you or me, we all have the right to live, the evil emperor continued while fixing his attention on the Dark Sovereign. His idea was simple enough. He wanted to live and continue to carry on in this dangerous era. He also hoped to see more of empty divine realms cultivators survive. The balance had been broken, and war was unavoidable, so he must follow the trend of things as they were. Only by surviving could he have the chance to get to a higher level until he was strong enough to pose a threat to the human ancestor. But for now, he had no way of fighting back. As one of the 6 emperors in the world, he was a cultivator standing at the top, but even he had to face reality. When the gods returned and descended, he knew that the era of the 6 emperors was history. So, the Dark Sovereign asked as she looked at the evil emperor. Your order caused the empty divine realm to lose more cultivators, and I won't risk anyone else in today's battle, the evil emperor said. He disappeared from where he was. The Dark Sovereign glanced upward, then stepped out and headed towards the void. After a while, heaven and earth roared in the sky above the Dark Court, and the void seemed to be broken. A terrifying divine power made the hell in the dark world tremble and the sea of the underworld scream. In the human realm, on all the continents, countless cultivators raised their heads. Above the firmament, they saw a gigantic face, and it was the face of the human ancestor. Your Majesty, the human ancestor. Countless cultivators bowed and saluted him, displaying a fervent fanaticism. The face of the human ancestor looked at the people of the world and said, I've been waiting for this day for a very long time, but others stopped me. Now, I'm finally back. Before this, the people of the human realm have already gone to the 7 realms, leading the fight for justice, fighting for the unification of the 7 realms. Now it is your turn. When his words fell, divine light descended from the firmament, and countless divine lights fell on the people. At this moment, all the cultivators in the human realm were bathed in that divine light, and their eyes became even more frenzied, with an indescribable and utmost reverence. More importantly, they also felt the power, which seemed to augment the capabilities they had already possessed. The divine light that descended strengthened them. Yi Futian hovered in the void of the heavenly realm while watching the projections of the live happenings from all realms that appeared around him. Yi Futian hovered in the void of the heavenly realm while watching the projections of the live happenings from all realms that appeared around him. The cultivators of the human realm unleashed their worldwide conquest and began to slaughter the people from other realms indiscriminately. Mountains of corpses could be seen everywhere. It was a living hell. The scariest part of it all would be the cultivators of the human realm who looked like they were possessed. None of them were in their right minds. It was as if they were born to kill. Moreover, their strength was greatly enhanced, making them an unstoppable bunch of mindless killing machines. Amitabha, the Buddha of Destiny, who stood beside Yi Futian, started reciting Buddhist sutra. He put his hands together after witnessing the violent and gory scenes. Are you able to peer into the fate of our future? Yi Futian asked the Buddha of Destiny. Even I could not peep into your future destiny, Your Highness. There is no way to prevent this predestined fate from taking place. Furthermore, the elite cultivators in this world will have to go through great tribulation. Unfortunately, I cannot perceive what fate has in store for us beyond this point due to the limitation of my cultivation. The Buddha of Destiny put his palms together and answered. Although he could not look into Yi Futian's destiny, he could tell that the latter would have to face an arduous ordeal. Is there no one that can stop the human ancestor? Yi Futian murmured. The human ancestor had been controlling the cultivators of the human realm to conquer the whole world. But the former still could not figure out what was the ultimate goal of the latter. The Buddha of Destiny remained taciturn. The human ancestor was the most mysterious and powerful existence since the ancient days. Even though they could alter the flow of time, they still could not catch up to the tier of his cultivation and make up for the difference between their cultivation duration. Yi Futian enveloped the entire domain of the heavenly realm with his divine consciousness. Following that, he noticed many combatants in danger, and the 2 legions he had personally trained had lost many of their forces. Even Xia Qingyuan, Dou Zhao, and the rest were in dire situations. Although they were powerful cultivators, they began to show signs of fatigue after continuously fighting for days. There were constant reinforcements from the human realm, and none of them acted like themselves. This was never a fair battle from the start. The human ancestor had manipulated the war by controlling the minds of the cultivators of the human realm. Please keep reading on Wuxia World. After watching the devastating scenes from the projections, Yi Futian knew that he could not allow things to go on like this. If he were to be led by the human ancestor's pace, it would spell doom for the living beings in the world. It was something that they could never afford to see. Bang! Yi Futian manifested a terrifying god's might that covered the entire atmosphere of the heavenly realm with a thought. At once, everyone lifted their heads to look at the sky. The cultivators of the human realm furrowed their brows while the combatants of the heavenly realm, who looked exhausted and demoralized, felt a huge relief because their ruler, the heavenly emperor, began to interfere with the war. If the war continued any longer, all of them would be annihilated. Attention, you who have invaded the heaven realm. The human ancestor refined the human realm and controlled you to occupy the heavenly realm and massacre its people. But I hereby announce that there shall be no killing and battling in the heavenly realm from this moment onward. Everyone must obey the order for a ceasefire. Offenders will be subject to immediate execution. Yi Futian's voice resounded through the whole heavenly realm. Naturally, the cultivators of the human realm would never listen to his words, as they would only obey the will of the human ancestor to fight for the cause of their justice and unite the 7 realms. From their point of view, Yi Futian had said that because he was afraid of losing. Now that he was on the losing end of the battle, the only way to turn the tide would be his intervention. Kill them. Some cultivators of the human realm in the heavenly imperial city paid no heed to Yi Futian's warning and continued their killing spree. They could not think straight since they were controlled by their emotions. They were trapped in their obstinacy, while some even lost themselves to the human ancestor's mind control. Boom! A tribulation of destruction rained from the sky while an overpowering god's might permeated the air. All those who came into contact with it were completely erased. In that instant, countless lights of catastrophe shot down from the sky and killed numerous cultivators of the human realm. Everyone, retreat from the battlefield at once. Yi Futian ordered. He was afraid that the cultivators of the human realm might take revenge on him since he had broken the unspoken rule of the cultivation world. Hence, he commanded the combatants of the heavenly realm to pull back. Rumble! An ominous sound could be heard reverberating in the air. The space passage that connected from the human realm enlarged even more. The border between the 2 realms seemed to have vanished. There would no longer be a distinction between the heaven realm and the human realm. A destructive divine thunder, also called the chaos true thunder, was fired from the human realm to the heavenly realm at a scale that could exterminate every cultivator in that realm. At the same time, multiple silhouettes of the gods showed up at the connecting point between the 2 realms, exuding a spine-chilling aura. Next, his body was crumbled into uncountable pieces and gradually receded from view. While a disembodied phantom attempted to flee from the scene, the light figure shot a light beam at the former to finish it off, giving no chance to any of its remnants to survive. After a while, the silhouette of Chen Yi appeared in that place. Turning his eyes in another direction, he dashed forward to another destination. Long ago, he had received the inheritance of the Bright Temple, and his perseverance in cultivation finally made him a genuine god of light. While Chen Yi was going around exterminating the enemies, the great emperors beside Yi Futian sealed up the heavenly imperial city. Standing in different locations, they unleashed the divine domain of the Great Path to prevent the gods of the human realm from killing indiscriminately. While Chen Yi was going around exterminating the enemies, the great emperors beside Yi Futian sealed up the heavenly imperial city. Standing in different locations, they unleashed the divine domain of the Great Path to prevent the gods of the human realm from killing indiscriminately. In another place, Yi Wuchen, Yaya, and Swordmaster of Lihen moved together in a group to set up a sword matrix. At that time, one of the gods entered the sword matrix and threw a domineering punch that broke the void, smashing the sword will into pieces. Fang Xian held a golden divine spear in his hand in another scene. It was emanating an overwhelming divine power of the source of the Great Path. The divine artifact held in the hands of the core members of the great emperors were treasures born in the heavenly path world of Yi Futian. In the opposite direction, a god with a burly figure walked toward them with a black overlord spear that was brimming with divine power in his hand. The void would tremble with every step he took. Bang! After he launched an attack, the overlord spear tore the fabric of space-time and pierced through the atmosphere, firing at Fang Xian. In response, the latter intensified his intent of battle and poured his divine power into the golden divine spear. Thrusting his weapon forward, it turned into a bolt of magnificent golden lightning that cracked the air in the atmosphere, aiming at the opponent. At the collision of the two spears, the entire scenery turned into what seemed like an apocalypse, destroying everything in the atmosphere nearby. Fang Xian was sent flying backward by the impact. Right then, he turned around and headed into the sky, getting further away from the battlefield. After all, this place could not handle having so many great emperors clashing with each other at the same time. Wasting no time, his opponent tailed him and headed to the sky. The father and son duo, Blind Tai and Tai Tu, stood together in another location. They both unleashed their intimidating divine powers while holding hammers of Tianshan that were packed with frightening energies in their hands to watch over that place. After noticing an approaching god, they swung their divine hammers and battled their enemy. A war between the gods broke out in different locations simultaneously. The size of their war zone was extremely vast. In the blink of an eye, they expanded it from the scale of the heavenly imperial city to the entire continent. Turning to look at the eternal sword lord, he criticized, "You were one of those who had stood at the pinnacle of cultivation since ancient times. I couldn't believe someone of your status would do something as disgraceful as trying to kill a junior. Everyone starts their cultivation journey at different timing. There is no such thing as seniority on the battlefield." After the Eternal Sword Lord finished speaking, the whole atmosphere turned into the Eternal Sword domain, where countless swords were fired at Dong Huang the Great. "Get out of here first," Dong Huang the Great whispered to Dong Huang Di. Wasting no time, she fled from the battleground with the divine power of revelation shielding her so that the sword domain could not harm her. At that time, Dong Huang the Great's divine power of revelation had grown even more powerful. Within the revelation divine domain, it would not allow any other divine powers to exist. Hence, most of the swords were utterly disintegrated. After the revelation would be the void. Needless to say, Dong Huang the Great had once again improved his cultivation to the next level. Clang! Numerous swords hovered around the atmosphere with the control of Dong Huang the Great's thought. The moment the heaven-punishing sword will surged its energy, all of the swords were launched at the Eternal Sword Lord, shattering everything in their paths and pulverizing all things to nothingness. It was as if no other power could stand against his heaven-punishing sword. "You've improved a lot," the Eternal Sword Lord commented after sensing the sword will. Compared to the last time they had clashed with each other, Dong Huang the Great's divine power had enhanced even further. That was indeed a phenomenal speed of improvement. "I respect you as one of the great emperors whose name was known by many during ancient times. If you were to leave this battlefield at once, I would not lay a hand on you, Dong Huang the Great notified with a tone brimming with absolute confidence, even though he was talking to an ancient super-great emperor. It was only natural since he was one of the strongest beings in the world at that time. Although the future generations might never know the golden age of the ancient emperors, I can finally see it again today, the eternal sword lord remarked solemnly as his sword will gradually intensified. Quit presuming on your seniority, Dong Huang the Great rebuked savagely. This was a fight between the super-great emperor of ancient times and the apex great emperor of the current age. Rumble. A divine power of destruction rained down from the sky, causing many to raise their heads and check out the situation above them, only to find an older man hovering there. That man was exploding a powerful aura as if he was a god who had existed since ancient times, the primogenitor of all sentient beings whose very presence would cause everyone to kneel and worship him. This aged man was also a super-great emperor who was world-renowned during ancient times. He was named as one of the progenitors of the great emperors since he had been cultivating for ages. When his name had already been uttered by everyone, the human ancestor might not even exist yet. He was the primary emperor who had fought countless conquests in his life. The man hardly ever lost during the Age of the Gods and even the Battle of the Gods. Unfortunately, a legend like him had lost his life during the collapse of the Great Path. Now that he had been resurrected in this era, he had to face a whole bunch of opponents who were the junior gods. These people were the great emperors of the younger generation, challenging the deific prerogative of the ancient ones. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.